Right, here we are. We're just looking at the Fib grid, using it on the Nifty 50, that's the Indian main market index. And what we've actually seen is the price moved down there at the beginning of the year, moved down sort of in a pretty clear downtrend, and the trend is just defined by a series of lower lows and lower highs. Eventually it bottomed, and that preceding lower high was eventually taken out, and then price moved on up. So what we're interested in is going long at these little pivot points. Now, we never quite know which is going to be the ideal pivot to actually go long at, but whenever we've got a retracement, then we want to get in as early as possible there. We don't want to go and buy the highs, we actually want to buy the lows. So if we can buy the lows, then we are going to be getting in at the optimum time. And then of course eventually this trend rolled over, and the sequence of higher lows and higher highs changed to the reverse of lower lows and lower highs. So when we get the new trend, we want to be going short there, we want to be going short there, and we want to be going short there, etc. So this is where the Fib grid comes in. So let's just bring the grid on. Here we are. So this is the grid, and what I want to do now is just to bring it all the way on down, okay, so that we're just going to pick up this first rally. Now the line, the horizontal lines, we'll ignore the verticals for the moment because we're not actually going to be using those on here, so I'll just remove them. I'll just take them off completely there. Okay, that's got rid of those. So we're now just left with the horizontals, and as you can see, we've got several lines. The first one is 38.2 retracement, then it's 50, and then it's 61.8. Now these are defaults. It's set up. You can adjust these up or down. You know, you can move these numbers to any number that you so wish, but we just use the defaults for the moment. And as we can see, the first time that price rallied up, it then came down, and it came down spot on the 50%. Okay, price then rallied on up a little bit, and then it came to spot on the 38.2. So the Fib grid has picked those up beautifully. So that's where one would be going long as it moves back up from the 50 and back up from the 38.2. So off we go. Price moves on up, and let's just see where it's going to go to. Well, it goes on up, okay, with barely a pause, with no pullback. So we've got in right the way down here at the 48.50 region, and it has now shot all the way on up to 51.30 with barely a pause. Price then goes on up, and then it does pause just briefly. So we just want to see now if this little correction comes back to the Fibonacci line. So up the Fib grid goes to the start, okay, the start of the last little swing. Okay, so the start of that last little swing is showing now that the retracement came back again to spot on the 50%, with a little harami candle. Price then moved on up from there, and the grid has caught that yet again. We move on up to the next one. The next little correction comes back to 38.2, and then we can just move this on up and to look to see what happens next. Well, we get the high, alright, so we've got the high just there, and from that original point there, where does price pop down to? Well, it pops down to the 38.2 before rallying up, but it does not now go to a new high. So that makes this extremely suspect, and as soon as price then pops back down through this level with that long candle, big engulfing candle, and it pops back through that original level which looked as if it was going to be a support level, that support has now given way, and it breaks into a downtrend. Okay, breaks into a downtrend once these previous significant higher lows have been taken out, and well, there we are on down price then comes and it moves into a downtrend. So the next part of this technique is to trade it on the downtrend. Now all of these techniques are clearly stated in the course that actually accompanies the Fib grid, and as we can see, price, its very first major correction back up, it's now broken into a downtrend, so we're looking at shorting opportunities. Shorting opportunities come at highs, okay, so we're looking for pullback highs. So what I'm actually looking at now is to see if we can pick up one of these. Let me just mirror this correctly so that we get the bear with me half a mo. We're just moving this on up now just to see where this one does actually decide to come, and it exceeds 70.7 and it doesn't quite get up to 78.6. So there we are, that's in the mid fibs between the 78.6 and the 70.7, and that's more or less midway, and that's exactly where the Fib grid then has picked out the next decline. So let's just look at what happens next. So what we want to do is to go short. It's helped by the fact that we've got a nice little harami candle there, and the breakout is just telling us now to go short. We then get another snap back, and yet again, let's just bring the grid just down to there, and we can see that price pops up to the 70.7. Let's just bring that one down there. Okay, can't quite, yes I can, yeah I can just bring that down. Pops up to the 70.7, and then it breaks on down. So let's just look at the next one. So price now, is moving in our favor, it's moving on down. Price pops back up. Well, let's just move it to the start of the preceding swing, and just look at that, more or less spot on the 70.7, and the Fib grid there is picking that one out, and on down it goes. So it's moved down sharply, and along the way then we've just got the odd little tiny correction there, just back up to the 50%, and then it's all over. It just moves on down. Now let's just pick this up. Sorry, let's just pick this up for the last swing, and the very last swing is again being picked up by the 70.7 as price moves on down. Right, so there we are. We've picked up then the downtrend. Well, we've picked up the uptrend, going long at these optimum levels, okay, these optimum levels where price comes back, and then we're going short again at the optimum times where price just keels over and gives us the entry opportunity at or very close to the highs. So let's move on. We've now got a trend moving up this time, as the preceding lower highs are actually taken out. That now breaks into an uptrend. We've got the uptrend there, and as you can see, the course has got so much more than just purely using Fibonacci, and not only do you get the grid, but you get all of these techniques as well. And just look at that, how the the pullback there catches it absolutely spot on there on the 50, and price just moves on up. So once again, the grid is just catching these optimum levels. There we are, optimum levels for price to pick out, and let's just move this one to the correct level there, and this is all moving on down. As you can see, you've got very fine tuning on this. You can move this to any number you like, of course. If you want to go beyond Fibonacci, looking at Gann and so on. Look at this. We've got this level where price actually came down to that level, another Fib level, and in fact, let me just swap that back over, because it might have been just a touch confusing there. Right, bear with me half a second, and we'll just move that to the correct place. 38.2, is what we actually want. And there we are. And look at that. Once again, we've got the swing on up. Price then corrected back down, and we want to get the optimum level. So 38.2. The moment it starts to turn the corner and move back in the direction of the trend, that's where we go long. And again, the fib grid has picked that up really quite smartly. Now, price then, as we can see, it moved on, and yet again we've got a 38.2, which got the next swing. Now, a little bit problematic here, because price then came down to look at that previous low. It did then swing on back up, but as we can see, it then started to look as if it was running out of steam. Now, this uptrend is still intact. It is still going. Again, the fib grid has picked out all of these optimum turning points where we should have been long. This one popped up, but this one did pop just a little bit down below here, and now price is starting to look just a little bit as if it might be a little bit toppy. So as I record this, I would now be wanting to check if price comes down then below this level. If it does, I shall be looking for pullbacks in the trend. You know, if price were to come down a little like this, but then pop up, I'm going to be putting the fib grid on to look for my next optimum short. So there we are. That's taken a brief look at the fib grid. You can of course set this up into any shape, size, or whatever you wish. You can use it as just a series of well, I use them as I call it my electronic dividers, because I can just set this between a couple of levels. Okay, I can bring in vertical options. You know, I can put in sort of vertical lines which I can set to anywhere that I want these to pick up. And again, look at that. That's picking up a top, not quite the 161.8, but that's where this sort of thing does really come into its own. So you can do verticals, horizontals, and time series as well. So there we are. That's just a very brief introduction to the fib grid on that Nifty 50.